I would have put Sydney Sweeney in. I would have found the most popular, hot, young actress, and I would have made her Snow White.
Okay, what just happened? Rachel Zegler might have just been replaced as Snow White, and not by just anyone, but by Sydney Sweeney. Yeah, you heard that right. Disney literally swapped out the original lead in their biggest fairy tale reboot, and it's got everyone, from fans to film insiders, freaking out. And Rachel? Oh, she's reacting. Publicly, subtly, maybe even a little spitefully. But here's the thing. This whole situation runs way deeper than just one casting switch. There's backstage drama, corporate panic, and what looks like a major course correction from Disney itself. Stick around, because we're breaking down exactly how this all went down, what Rachel's cryptic posts really mean, and why this might be the final nail in the coffin for Disney's live-action remake era. If you've been anywhere near Twitter, TikTok, or literally any movie forum in the last year, you already know Rachel Zegler's journey with Snow White has been a full-blown PR disaster from day one. When Disney first announced her casting, it was supposed to be a major moment. Rachel Zegler, fresh off West Side Story.
And I wouldn't have made, and this seems like a flaw to me, I wouldn't have made the evil queen better looking than Snow White.
Stepping into one of the most iconic fairy tale roles ever, it sounded like a win. But almost immediately, the internet didn't buy it. Things started going sideways fast. Rachel went on press tours and gave interviews that didn't exactly win fans over. She called the original Snow White weird, said the prince was a stalker, and made it clear the remake was ditching the traditional love story entirely. And yeah, Disney fans did not take that lightly. Clips of those interviews went viral for all the wrong reasons. People started saying she didn't respect the original film. Memes exploded, hashtags trended, and suddenly, instead of promoting a beloved reboot, Rachel was trending as the villain of the story. And it didn't stop there. Around the same time, Peter Dinklage criticized the film for being backward in its portrayal of the dwarves. And instead of addressing the issue thoughtfully, Disney panicked and completely restructured the film. They reportedly changed the story, the tone, the casting, everything. Internally, that sent the production into chaos. According to insiders, rewrites kept happening mid-filming. Directors were clashing with the studio. And test audiences? Yeah, they weren't impressed either. Meanwhile, Rachel's image just kept taking hits. Fans noticed she started disappearing from Disney's official promos. Trailers dropped with barely any footage of her.
I don't know who the evil queen should be. Maybe Nicole Kidman. Just tossing it out there. Nicole Kidman, evil queen. Sydney Sweeney, Snow White. Seven dwarfs, boom, I just made you $1 billion, okay? This shouldn't be that hard to do.
Marketing slowed down. No Comic-Con appearance, no poster campaigns. It was like Disney was quietly backing away. And that's when the industry buzz really picked up. Reporters started calling Snow White a sinking ship. Analysts warned that it could become Disney's biggest live-action flop ever. And more, Rachel Zegler wasn't being seen as the face of the film. She was being blamed as the reason it was failing. So yeah, when you hear that Disney just replaced her with Sydney Sweeney, it's not just a new casting choice. It's the climax of a slow, painful fallout. One that the internet watched play out in real time, and one that Disney's clearly trying to erase from memory. So here's where everything takes a wild turn. After months of silence, awkward marketing rollouts, and zero real updates on the Snow White remake, out of nowhere, new reports start popping up. First, it was just whispers. Industry insiders saying the project had been restructured again. Then, just days later, boom, the headline hits. Sydney Sweeney is taking over as Snow White. Like, wait, what? The same Sydney Sweeney from Euphoria? Anyone But You? Madame Web? Yep, that's Sydney. And apparently, she's not just joining the cast. She's taking the lead. As in, full-on rebooting the reboot. And here's the kicker. Disney didn't even announce it with fanfare. No big promo. No official trailer.
A series of controversies is threatening to derail the opening of Disney's latest big-budget blockbuster. I'm talking about the live-action remake of Snow White, which will be out next week.
Just a few very strategic leaks to outlets like Variety and Deadline, followed by a carefully worded statement about new creative direction and aligning with evolving brand goals. Translation? They quietly benched Rachel Zegler and handed the ball to Sydney. Now, insiders are saying this new version of Snow White is going for a totally different vibe. Less girl boss reboot, more traditional fantasy, with, of course, a modern twist that leans more Gen Z cool than PR disaster. Word is, Disney wants something closer to the aesthetic of Cinderella, the Lily James one. but with a lead that brings social buzz. And Sydney? She's got that in spades. She's everywhere right now. Late-night shows, viral interviews, even producing her own films. She's the type of actress Disney can bet on to draw clicks without igniting a cultural war. And that's the point. This isn't just about casting someone better or more popular. It's about cleaning house. Disney's trying to reset the narrative completely, wipe the slate, pretend the first version never existed. And bringing in someone as high-profile and low-drama as Sydney Sweeney, that's the studio's way of saying,
Now, fans are growing more concerned about Disney's new Snow White remake, mostly because of what the lead actress has been saying to the press. Rachel Zegler has been described as a walking PR disaster for Disney.
forget everything you saw before. This is the real one. But here's the thing. They forgot one major problem. Rachel Zegler? She saw all of this going down. And oh, she did not stay quiet. So, how did Rachel Zegler react to being replaced? Well, she didn't post a Notes app apology. She didn't do a tell-all podcast. And she definitely didn't come out swinging in a headline-grabbing TMZ rant. No, Rachel did what celebs do best when they want to speak without speaking. She went cryptic. Just hours after the Sydney Sweeney news started trending, Rachel posted an Instagram story. Black and white aesthetic, moody lighting, no makeup, and the caption, "Some stories don't deserve a happy ending." Fans immediately clocked it. Comments exploded. Tweets were like, "Yo, she's salty." Others called it heartbreaking. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a casual post. This was a reaction. Then, a few days later, she showed up on a live stream talking about West Side Story, completely dodging any mention of Snow White. But if you listened closely, she threw shade, talking about how she's learned not every project deserves your soul, and how sometimes walking away is the only power you've got left. Girl was hurting, but she was also firing shots. Just not directly. And if you go back a bit, it all lines up. Months before the Sydney rumors, Rachel had already started distancing herself from the Snow White press cycle.
There's more. There's always more. Let's have a listen.
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story.
She canceled multiple appearances, stopped promoting the film entirely, and even unfollowed a few key Disney execs. Yeah, people noticed. So while Disney was pretending like she never existed in this role, Rachel was slowly making her exit, emotionally, professionally, publicly. But here's the thing. This wasn't just about losing a role. This was supposed to be her legacy, her big fairy tale, her crowning moment. And now, it's being handed to another rising star while the internet cheers it on. That stings. And honestly, her reaction shows she knows exactly what's happening. She's not confused. She's not shocked. She's mad. But more than that, she feels replaced. And the real question is, how does someone bounce back from that when the whole world watched it unfold in real time? The moment Sydney Sweeney's name entered the chat, the internet absolutely exploded. Within minutes, it was trending on Twitter, Sydney Sweeney Snow White, right alongside Justice for Rachel and Zegler replaced. And the reactions? Oh, they were all over the place. On one side, you had people celebrating like it was a national holiday. Finally, a Snow White we actually want to watch. Sydney Sweeney is about to save Disney, mark my words. TikTok edits were already going viral.
There were reportedly not even going to be dwarfs either. Rainbow people instead. I thought it was a fan protest. And even the word dwarfs isn't mentioned in this remake. The film has people saying, don't mock sleepy as a neurological condition. And dopey isn't really dopey, that'd be rude.
People photoshopping Sydney in the dress, remixing her most iconic red carpet moments with Disney music, even doing side-by-side who wore it better comparisons with Zegler. But on the other side, oh, it got brutal. Zegler stans came in swinging, calling Disney out for throwing her under the bus after using her as a poster girl for modern representation. One viral tweet read, "So Disney casts a Latina actress, tanks the project with bad writing, and then replaces her with a blonde it girl and pretends it's progress? Yikes." Even people not emotionally invested in either actress started chiming in, asking what this says about Disney's bigger moves. Like, is this damage control? A rebranding moment? Or just a straight-up panic play to get people back on board before the next quarter's earnings call? And the industry? Analysts were quick to call this what it is, a scramble. Several outlets, including Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, dropped pieces suggesting Disney realized the original version was unmarketable, and that execs had been shopping around for a new lead for months before anything went public. Some anonymous studio sources even spilled to Deadline that early screenings of the original cut were received poorly and lacking broad appeal. Translation? The studio knew it was in trouble, and Sydney wasn't just a casting choice, she was a lifeline. But here's the thing, that only added more fuel to the fire. Because if Disney always planned to sideline Zegler, was this whole project doomed from the start?
Peter Dinklage questioned why the story even included the characters at all.
They're very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Yeah.
And Seven Dwarfs.
Sure.
So, look, take a step back and look at what you're doing.
Or was she just made the scapegoat for a movie that never had a real chance? Either way, the fandom is officially divided. Comment sections have turned into war zones. You've got Daler Team Rachel, Troyer Team Sydney, and even people begging for the movie to just get scrapped altogether. But at the center of it all, Disney's name, and a whole lot of pressure to prove that this move wasn't just a desperate PR band-aid. And whether you love or hate the decision, one thing's clear. This isn't just a casting change. It's a full-on cultural flashpoint. On the surface, this might look like just another messy recast. But step back for a second, and it becomes way bigger than just Rachel Zegler versus Sydney Sweeney. This is Disney hitting the panic button. Let's be real, they've been struggling with their live-action remakes for a while now. The Little Mermaid got mixed reviews and barely moved the needle at the box office. Peter Pan and Wendy? Quietly dumped on streaming and forgotten in a week. And now Snow White, the one that was supposed to be a guaranteed win, has become their most controversial project yet. Internally, you can feel the shift. The same studio that once championed bold reimaginings and modernized fairy tales is suddenly pulling a 180. First, they stop pushing trailers. Then they go radio silent. Now they're replacing leads, rebooting the reboot, and pretending like the first version never existed.
You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it, the disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole image.
Industry insiders are even saying Disney is reevaluating its entire live-action strategy. Like, they're seriously looking at whether this whole message-first, story-second approach is backfiring. Because audiences aren't just bored of reboots, they're actively rejecting them when they feel forced, hollow, or overly politicized. And Zegler, fairly or not, became the face of that backlash. So what does Disney do? They bring in Sydney Sweeney, a fresh face, a crowd pleaser, someone who can pull both TikTok views and Hollywood credibility. And they reboot the reboot, hoping we all forget what happened the first time around. But here's the wild part. This move doesn't just affect Snow White. It sends a ripple through every Disney project in development. Because if this kind of behind-the-scenes reset works, if Sydney's version lands and the noise dies down, you can bet this won't be the last silent swap Disney pulls. Studios are watching this like a case study. If it works, it changes how Hollywood handles controversy. Don't fix the movie, just replace the face, wipe the slate, and try again. But if it doesn't work, if audiences still push back, or this reboot flops too, then Disney's not just losing a franchise, they're facing a full-blown identity crisis. Because when even your fairy tales stop feeling magical, what's left? So now that the dust is kind of settling, what happens next? For Rachel Zegler, this is the toughest crossroads of her career so far. She went from being Disney's next princess to being quietly phased out.
While we're on the subject of actresses and awards and hacks, do we have a moment for Rachel Zegler and Snow White? Because there is an update.
And the internet saw every step of it. She's still attached to a few projects, including the Hunger Games prequel she already filmed. And there's talk of her being considered for more dramatic roles on streaming platforms. But casting directors, they're being cautious. The buzz is that she's now seen as a risky hire, not because she isn't talented, but because she comes with baggage. As for Sydney Sweeney, she's on the upswing hard. Between Euphoria, her breakout in rom-coms, and producing her own films, she's becoming Hollywood's golden girl. And Disney clearly sees that. This Snow White reboot might just be a test run. If she brings in the numbers and avoids the backlash, she could become the new face of the next Disney era. Rumors are already swirling that she's being floated for other iconic roles. Some insiders say Disney is developing a Tangled remake, and Sydney's name has been mentioned for Rapunzel. Wild, right? Nothing's confirmed, but if Snow White 2.0 works, we might be looking at a Sweeney renaissance. And what about the movie itself? Right now, it's being kept under wraps. No official release date, no trailer, no behind-the-scenes hype. That's not normal for a movie this size. Some say it might head straight to Disney+, skipping theaters altogether. Others think they'll test the waters with soft promo, see how people respond to Sydney. Then go big if the online vibe is positive. But one thing's for sure, this isn't just a re-release with a new lead. This is Disney trying to rebuild trust, to repackage the magic, to turn a PR nightmare into a clean slate. And if it fails again, that won't just be Rachel's loss, that'll be Disney's too. So yeah, Rachel Zegler out, Sydney Sweeney in, and Disney? They're acting like the first version never happened. But no matter how they spin it, this wasn't just a casting change. This was a public fallout, a corporate reset, and maybe even the moment Disney realized they can't keep reimagining fairy tales if the audience doesn't believe in the magic anymore. But now I want to hear from you. Was this a smart move? Did Rachel deserve better? Or is Sydney Sweeney exactly what Disney needs to turn this around? Drop your take in the comments because this story is still unfolding, and something tells me this isn't the last time we'll see drama behind the castle gates.